This is Helen Thomas and the CDFM study group. Today we're going to be covering the CDFM Module 2.2 DoD Acquisition Life Cycle. We're going to be looking at a PowerPoint slide or a visual of the acquisition life cycle process. So we talked about JCIDS before, the Joint Capability Integration and Development System. That is the system DoD uses to identify capability gaps in our inventory and then develop solutions to meet those gaps. So JROC reviews the process. Remember, Joint Requirements Oversight Council was the board that reviews and conducts the JCIDS. JCIDS reviews the gaps in doctrine, organization, training materials, leadership and education, personnel and facilities. That's that .mlpf we talked about before. And if the recommended solution to fill the gap is a material solution, then it triggers the defense acquisition system once approved. So each step of this process must be approved by the decision maker. So once JCIDS, they determine let's say it's a material solution, JCIDS will then develop an initial capabilities document working with the program managers who develop the acquisition program baseline. Now we need to put it in writing. What does that capability need to look like? What type of things does that capability need to be able to do to meet that national security strategy? So that's put in that initial capabilities document. The program baseline just gives the basic standards for that development and lists some primary costs that they can expect to get. So the DoD Acquisition Management System or the DoD Acquisition System is an evolutionary or a single step. They can evolve in the different milestones, or it's a single step. We need to go directly to milestone B because we already have something in the inventory. So the JROC reviews, and then you have the 3 milestones in the acquisition system. 3 milestones, 3 activities, and 5 phases. So we're going to look at what happened as each one. And again, these are not all inclusive. This is just a quick snapshot. So the first activity, pre-systems acquisition. There's a material development decision review that has to be conducted. MDA is your milestone decision authority. Whoever that decision maker is for the level of the capability that you have. So if it's a DoD level requirement, it's an acquisition category 1 Delta. The D behind it tells you it's a DoD level. Formal entry into the acquisition process is a successful review from this material decision review by the milestone decision authority. So the first phase of the acquisition system is the material solution analysis. Yeah, you know we got to do some analysis to determine, okay, in theory, we said this was the fix for the problem, fill the gap, accomplish our mission. But again, now we need to actually go into the specifics. So let's see what we have here. So material solution analysis, phase 1, does not mean that a new acquisition program has been initiated. It gives approval to begin the analysis of the alternative. Hey, let's look at our courses of action. You can look at analysis of the alternative as we know what our courses of action. Now let's war game this and see what this actually accomplished. The director of CAPE, the same guy who was in charge of the programming phase of PEEV and also responsible for updating the future year defense program, is the same individual who prepares the AOA guidance, analysis of the alternative. It's limited to RDT&E funding or O&M funding because you're early on in the stage. We're just doing an analysis to see how things this is decided out. So the Milestone Decision Authority conducts a Milestone A decision review. So before entry into any phase, they have a review conducted to see, okay, kind of like when you do an AAR, after action review. This is what's supposed to happen. This is what happened. Do we continue or do we need to change something? Do we need to stop? So that's what the review before the process. So if approved, if this Milestone A decision review is approved, entrance into Milestone A. Milestone A comes right here. The second phase is technology development. Entry into this phase begins after a successful Milestone A decision review. Again, the technology development does not mean that a new acquisition program is initiated. We get full research development, technology, and equipment funding, RDT&E. We prepare to produce prototypes. What does the prototype need to look like? A capability development document is compiled, because now we got technology specifics on what this item needs to look like. And a Milestone Decision Authority conducts Milestone B decision review. Once approved, that is what gives us entrance into Milestone B. If you can remember that acquisition life cycle chart, the acquisition system, that's what we're trying to depict here. So Milestone B, and in Milestone B, you have the systems acquisition. So we had pre-system. So these are all our analysis, material solution, technology development. Milestone B, we have systems acquisition, and in Milestone B is where you have the engineering and manufacturing development. This is where it gets serious. In Milestone B, entry into this phase begins after a successful decision review. Program manager submits input into the POM to ensure future funds are available. Milestone B, here we go, is formal approval for program initiation. So you see how far down, now we're committed. Program approval to keep going. RDT&E and procurement funds, full funding is provided. Post-preliminary design review and post-critical design review is conducted here in the engineering. Two decisions that must be made is the quantity of low rate. So what's the least amount we need to initially produce, the LRIP, and whether we're going to be asking for funding during the production and deployment phase. So a capability production document is compiled. So the MDA conducts Milestone C decision review. Once approved, we can move on to Milestone C. So Milestone C is now continuing the systems acquisition, activity number 2, and production and deployment is the 4th phase. Entry into this phase, we had a successful decision review and achieve operational capability and satisfy mission needs. Let's see what else we have in here. MDA commits the DoD to production. Now we're ready to produce these items. Acquisition decision memorandum. So it's published in this document. Types of money used. Procurement and MILCON funding is used. Production and deployment authorizes entry into LRIP. Remember, up here, the LRIP, we were given the quantity. We were told in the engineering, manufacturing, and development, the quantity of that low rate initial production. So in the production and deployment, that is when whatever that quantity was, we authorized to develop them into the production or procurement for non-major systems that do not need LRIP. A full rate production decision review. So this is another review that must be conducted before we actually go to the total number. So LRIP is the least amount we need to produce, and then full production. Before that's done, there's a full rate production decision review. And if the program determines if the program can go on to full production. An initial operational capability date is established to provide the first operational capability. What date? Before we can have the first vehicle on the road ready to be used. A full rate production review, if approved, gives us entrance into operation and support phase. Sustainment is activity number 3. Phase 5, operation and support. You execute the support program and sustain system. Planning for this phase done before program initiation and documented in life cycle support plan. The funding that is used for operation and support is O&M and MILPERS, military personnel. The program achieves full operational capability, which occurs when the total quantity items are deployed to the warfighter. So the total amount that was supposed to be developed is then pushed out to the warfighter. At the end of the life cycle of that vehicle, since we're using that as an example, the system is then demilitarized, meaning we don't destroy the truck. We take all the military, our special military things off of it, and sometimes we do foreign military sales where we sell those trucks to countries overseas. After we demilitarize them and dispose according to the regulatory guidance. So whatever that guidance says to destroy them. A couple of categories you must understand on the next slide is the acquisition categories designated by predetermined cost. So depending on the cost, there's a predetermined determination that is made on the types of categories. So let me go ahead and put them both up. So acquisition category 1, level 1 means it's a major defense program. So either we're developing a general program or an automation program. Those are the two major categories here. If it's an acquisition category 1 Delta, that tells you, the D behind it tells you it's a DoD level program. The milestone decision authority, so the top senior acquisition person at the DoD is a USD AT&L. This is the same guy that's the chairman of the Defense Acquisition Board. So he's also called the Defense Acquisition Executive. He's also called the Defense Acquisition Board Chairman. So these are different titles used. When it comes to all of this in the acquisition system, remember the JROC continues to review. And who was the chairman of the Joint Requirements Oversight Council? The vice chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff. So the second acquisition 1 category here for major systems is 1 Charlie. The C behind it tells you it's a component level. Navy, Army, Marine, Air Force, it's a component. That means their acquisition person is responsible for being their milestone decision authority if it's at their level. So their component acquisition executive is the one that's the decision maker. If it's an automated information system, that's treated in a different category, it's ACAT 1 Alpha. The A behind it tells you it's automation. ACAT 1AM are the DoD level information systems. Same thing as above, but because it's information system, the USD AT&L will designate his subject matter Chief Information Officer, the CIO, who's your intelligence guy for information, to be that decision maker for those information systems. ACAT 1AC, again, the C tells you you're a component. The A tells you it's an automated system. C tells you it's a component level. So MDA Component Acquisition System. So this concludes the DoD acquisition categories and the DoD life cycle categories.